The age of Aquarius has already begun, not someday in the future, not when the planets line up, not when someone tells you it's official. It's already here, and you're already feeling it, whether you realize it or not. Have you been tired for no clear reason? Losing interest in things that used to excite you? Feeling disconnected from your job, your social circle, or even your own identity? You're not imagining it. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're experiencing the early effects of a massive energetic shift, and it has everything to do with Aquarius. This age doesn't announce itself with noise. It doesn't wait for permission or approval. It moves through you subtly, quietly, powerfully. What you're feeling is your nervous system adjusting to a new frequency. The world you once knew, the roles, the structures, the values, is dissolving. And in its place, a new paradigm is emerging. One built on clarity, authenticity, alignment, and inner truth, the core values of Aquarius. So if you're feeling like something's off, like you no longer fit into the life you used to live, that's not dysfunction, that's transition. The age of Aquarius didn't come to entertain, it came to wake you up. And that's exactly why you're here. The age of Aquarius isn't something that asked for your consent before unfolding. It didn't wait for the world to be ready. It didn't show up with fanfare or an invitation. It arrived through sensation, through the quiet disruption of everything you once called normal. You didn't read about it in the news. You felt it in your body. That sense of emotional detachment from people you used to feel close to. The loss of interest in your job, your routines, even your goals. The growing need for silent space and honesty. These aren't random symptoms, they're signs of a deeper shift. A biological, psychological, and energetic adjustment to a new Aquarian frequency. In the previous age, Pisces, we were conditioned to follow systems, religious, societal, academic, corporate. Truth was external. You were expected to believe what you were told, to obey without questioning, and to place your trust in structures outside of yourself. But Aquarius breaks that model. It reclaims truth as something internal. It replaces hierarchy with resonance. And instead of pushing you to fit in, it urges you to break away from what no longer aligns with who you truly are. That's why you've been feeling this tension. You're not malfunctioning, you're evolving. The discomfort you feel isn't a setback. It's a signal. Your inner world is rejecting what your outer world still tries to maintain. And because Aquarius is not about tradition, it's about innovation and energy. You may find yourself pulled toward things you can't explain yet. You might feel guided to change your environment, cut ties, or walk away from something that once defined you. This isn't recklessness, it's clarity rising. You're not waiting for the shift anymore. You are the shift. And the more you try to hold on to outdated roles, relationships, or routines, the more friction you'll feel. Because those things were created for an era that no longer exists. In the age of Aquarius, the transformation doesn't begin out there in the stars. It begins inside you. And once it starts, you can't reverse it. You can only decide whether to fight it or flow with it. The question now is not what is happening. It's, are you willing to let go of what no longer fits so you can become who you were always meant to be? One of the most common misunderstandings right now is this: I think I'm burned out. But what if you're not? What if what you're experiencing isn't exhaustion from doing too much, but resistance from staying in environments, roles, and identities that no longer match who you're becoming? We've been trained to call everything discomforting stress. You feel drained, it must be burnout. You feel unmotivated, you probably need a break. You feel disconnected, try harder. But the truth is, this isn't just stress. It's not a phase, it's not a passing mood, it's a wake-up call. You're not falling apart, you're waking up. In the age of Aquarius, energy moves differently. This is a frequency-based age, one that values clarity over conformity and alignment over obligation. And when your life doesn't match your internal frequency, your body lets you know. You feel it in ways you can't always explain. You sleep for 8 hours, but wake up tired. You scroll for an hour and feel more disconnected than before. You sit in a meeting and suddenly wonder, what am I even doing here? That's not burnout. That's your system trying to exit a pattern that no longer fits. That's your awareness expanding beyond the roles you were told to play. Real life example. Daniel's story. Daniel was a high-performing product manager in a fast-paced tech company. On paper, his life was ideal, stable income, a respected position, and a team that liked him. But slowly, things started changing. Tasks he once enjoyed now felt meaningless. He'd stare at his screen for hours, unable to start even the simplest projects. No matter how many vacations he took, the heaviness remained. Eventually, Daniel realized he wasn't tired from work. He was tired from pretending that work was still his purpose. He left the job, took a few months off, and returned not to another company, but to coaching creatives. Something he'd never thought was practical, but which made him feel alive. That clarity didn't come from ambition. It came from alignment. And it only showed up when he stopped forcing himself to operate on a system that no longer made sense. What you're feeling is energetic rejection. In the Aquarian frequency, your nervous system becomes more honest. It doesn't want stimulation. It wants truth. It doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. This is why you can't fake it anymore. Why empty conversations feel exhausting. Why you've started craving silence not out of sadness, but because you're done with noise. And yes, it's confusing at first, because no one ever taught you how to read these signs. We were raised to override them, to perform, to push through, but that's the language of the old age. Aquarius speaks a different language, one of vibration, coherence, and inner knowing. So if you've been feeling off lately, uninspired, unmotivated, unsure, ask yourself this: is my life aligned with who I truly am now, or am I still showing up as the version I was trained to be? Because the exhaustion you feel isn't failure, it's feedback. You're not at your limit. You're at the edge of transformation. And once you stop labeling it as burnout, you'll see it for what it really is. An invitation to evolve. You may not have realized it yet, but something fundamental is no longer working. The way you used to think, plan, operate, and respond to the world, what you might call your internal operating system, is beginning to fall apart. But not because you failed, not because you're lazy or suddenly lack discipline. It's happening because you've simply outgrown it. Just like outdated software can't process newer technology, your mind and body are struggling to apply old ways of thinking to a new energetic environment. And Aquarius as an age isn't compatible with that old script. Back then, you were taught to keep things in order, follow the routine, wake up early, stick to the plan, do what's expected, stay productive, and put logic above emotion. This kind of structure gave you a sense of control, and for a while it worked. But we're no longer in that age. In the Aquarian frequency, that same structure becomes suffocating. What once felt secure now feels artificial. What once gave you purpose now feels empty. And no matter how hard you try to make the old habits work, they just don't. Because you've changed. And the system you were running no longer matches the energy you're now living in. You may have felt this as emotional burnout. You sit at your desk, but your mind is somewhere else. You say yes automatically, then regret it. You complete a task and wonder why you feel no satisfaction. You do everything right, and yet nothing feels aligned. That's not failure, that's friction. And that friction is feedback. It's your system trying to run on outdated code. You are not falling apart. You are undergoing an update. And just like any system update, the transition is uncomfortable. It's not always clear what's happening. It may show up as confusion, fatigue, or even emotional disconnection. But beneath that discomfort is something real. Your intuition is waking up. Your energy is shifting. And your nervous system is beginning to reject what no longer resonates. This is not a crisis. This is your inner system doing exactly what it's supposed to do, removing what no longer belongs. In the previous age, power came from control. The more predictable and structured your life was, the safer you felt. But in Aquarius, power comes from something entirely different: coherence. Coherence means alignment between your thoughts, your feelings, your energy, and your actions. It can't be faked and it can't be forced. It's not about performance, it's about truth. And when you're living in alignment with what's true for you, things begin to shift. The heaviness lifts. The fog clears. You begin to move not from pressure, but from clarity. Letting go of your old operating system doesn't mean walking away from your responsibilities. It means showing up as someone who's no longer ruled by fear, habit, or approval seeking. It means honoring the version of yourself that's not addicted to busyness, but connected to purpose. So if your routines no longer work, if your goals feel flat, if you feel like you've lost motivation for the very things you once worked so hard to build, that doesn't mean you've lost your way. It means you've outgrown the version of yourself that created them. And now it's time to build from a new frequency. One of the most surprising effects of the Age of Aquarius is how differently time and energy are starting to feel. You may have noticed it already. Some days fly by in a blink and others seem to drag endlessly. You might feel like you're doing less yet, somehow you feel more drained. Or maybe you think of something, feel it intensely, and suddenly it begins to show up in your reality without much effort at all. That's not coincidence. It's not magic. It's part of a new way of experiencing time, and it has everything to do with the energetic shift of Aquarius. In the old system, time was rigid. It followed a linear structure: wake up at 7, work from 9 to 5, plan your life 5 years ahead, stick to the schedule. Everything had to move in order, step by step, according to the rules. You were expected to build your life like a staircase, logical, consistent, predictable. But Aquarius doesn't operate on that kind of rhythm. It doesn't follow the old rules or respect artificial structures. It flows, it pulses, it moves in sync with your energy, not your calendar. Aquarian energy responds to frequency, not control. Time in this new reality becomes flexible. It stretches when you're out of alignment. It accelerates when you're tuned in. It no longer obeys the limits of the clock. Instead, it moves with the rhythm of your internal state. That's why you may feel like you're doing everything right, but nothing is moving. You follow the plan, stay disciplined, and still feel stuck. Days feel heavy, nothing flows. Then suddenly you let go. Take a pause. Stop trying to force things, and everything starts falling into place. That's not luck. That's resonance. When you're aligned with your own energy, things start unfolding faster. Not because you worked harder, but because you stopped resisting what was already trying to happen. Manifestation is also changing. It's no longer about effort, grind, or chasing goals. It's becoming something more immediate. The gap between intention and reality is closing. And that's because Aquarius collapses time when alignment is present. You've probably started to notice this already. The moment you stop chasing what doesn't feel right, something better appears. You get an unexpected message. You meet someone out of nowhere. You get the exact clarity you needed. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when your inner frequency becomes coherent with your outer reality. At the same time, the old pace of life doesn't feel right anymore. You may struggle with the productivity systems that used to work. Checklists, time blocks, performance goals, they start to feel forced. You find yourself craving space, not structure, silence, not stimulation, rest, not reward. But this isn't a sign that you're lazy or unmotivated. It's a sign that your nervous system is rebalancing. It's adjusting to a reality where energy matters more than appearance and where clarity is more powerful than control. That's also why pushing yourself doesn't work anymore. In the old world, pressure created progress. In Aquarius, pressure creates resistance. The more you force, the heavier it gets. But the moment you choose alignment over obligation, even the most complicated situations begin to resolve. And this can be deeply confusing, especially if your identity has been shaped by achievement. You were raised to prove yourself through action. You were taught to move faster, try harder, be more productive. But now those same efforts feel empty. You don't feel seen, you don't feel fulfilled, you just feel tired. That's not failure, that's realignment. In this new frequency, your value isn't measured by output. It's felt through your presence. Your impact doesn't come from what you do. It comes from how aligned you are when you do it. So if time feels strange, if your energy feels inconsistent, or if you find yourself manifesting things faster than before, it's not a fluke. It's a signal that you've entered a new mode of living. This is the Aquarian timeline, one that honors stillness, one that rewards clarity, one that moves when your soul is ready, not when your calendar says it should. You're not breaking down, you're syncing up. One of the most misunderstood experiences during this shift into the age of Aquarius is sensitivity. You may have noticed that you're feeling more than usual, more emotional, more reactive, more aware of things that others seem to ignore. And maybe you've started to believe that something's wrong with you. But here's the truth, nothing is wrong with you. You're not too soft, too emotional, or too intense. You're simply becoming more attuned. And in this new energetic age, that sensitivity is not a liability, it's one of your greatest strengths. In the past, we were taught to suppress our feelings. We were told to be strong, keep it together, and don't let things get to you. But that kind of emotional armor was built for a world that rewarded detachment and control. That's not the world we're living in anymore. The age of Aquarius operates on subtle energy, inner truth, and vibrational coherence. It requires a level of awareness that goes beyond logic. And the people who feel the most, who pick up on subtle emotional shifts, who sense tension in a room, who feel overwhelmed by dishonesty or noise, are often the first to align with this frequency because they're built for it. Sensitivity is not weakness, it's perception. It's access to information that others haven't yet learned how to read. It's being able to sense when something is off even when everything looks fine on the surface. That's why you may have found yourself suddenly unable to tolerate certain people, environments, or even foods that you used to be perfectly fine with. You're not becoming picky, you're becoming precise. Your system no longer wants to spend energy on what doesn't feel right, not because you're judgmental, but because your body is protecting your alignment. Let's be honest, sensitivity is uncomfortable. It can make social situations harder. It can make daily life feel overwhelming. But it also gives you access to something most people miss: truth beneath the surface. You don't just hear what people say, you feel what they mean. You pick up on what they avoid, you sense what's not being said. And in this new energetic climate, that kind of inner radar is essential. Because Aquarius doesn't care about surface. It responds to frequency. And frequency doesn't lie. This is also why silence feels more healing than ever. Why solitude feels like clarity. Why you crave space, nature, or quiet places where you can actually feel your own thoughts again. You're not being antisocial. You're creating an environment where your system can breathe. Because when your energy field becomes more sensitive, it also becomes more intelligent. It tells you without words what's safe, what's true, what's fake, and what's aligned. And the more you trust it, the more accurate it becomes. So if you've been emotional lately, if you've cried for no reason, or walked into a room and immediately wanted to leave, that's not weakness. That's your system speaking clearly. And learning to listen to it might be the most powerful thing you do. Because in the age of Aquarius, leadership doesn't come from power or perfection. It comes from coherence. And sensitivity is what makes coherence possible. We've been taught to lead with words, to explain ourselves clearly, to prove our worth, to justify our decisions. But in this new energetic reality in the age of Aquarius, something different is happening. What truly influences people now isn't how loud you are, how confident you sound, or how polished your arguments seem. What moves people is your coherence. Coherence means that your thoughts, your emotions, your actions, and your energy are all aligned. You're not saying one thing and feeling another. You're not smiling when you're collapsing inside. You're not pretending to be okay just to keep up appearances. You're simply real, clear, unshaken. And that clarity, when it's genuine, is magnetic. People may not know why they feel drawn to you. They might not be able to explain it, but they'll feel safer around you. They'll open up. They'll listen. They'll remember you. Not because you impressed them, but because you resonated with something real inside them. This is the new leadership. It doesn't need a title. It doesn't chase attention. It doesn't dominate rooms with noise. It shifts the energy of a space without saying a word. In the past, influence came from performance. You had to be loud, persuasive, charismatic, constantly proving yourself. But Aquarius changes that equation completely. You no longer have to push to be heard. If your energy is clear, people will feel you long before they understand you. If your presence is honest, people will trust you even before you speak. That's why now more than ever it matters how you show up internally. Not how perfect your sentences are, but how honest your energy is. Not how polished your image looks, but how aligned your intentions feel. And yes, this can be disorienting at first, because it means you can no longer fake it. You can't just say the right thing and get the same results. If your energy contradicts your words, people will feel it. And that's not a flaw in the system. That is the system now. What used to be invisible, your emotional frequency, is now your clearest signal. And if you've been noticing that you no longer tolerate certain conversations, that small talk drains you, that pretending exhausts you, that's not you becoming antisocial. That's you becoming energetically precise. So what does this mean for you? It means you no longer need to convince anyone. You no longer need to explain yourself to be understood. You no longer need to fight to be seen. You just need to be aligned. Because when you're aligned truly, deeply, unapologetically, people feel it. And that resonance speaks louder than anything you could ever say. This is the quiet power of Aquarius. Not performance, not force, but coherence. In this world, you've been taught that if you feel too much, break down too easily, or can't keep up with the pace of normal life, something must be wrong with you. You must be anxious, depressed, unstable. You must need medication, a diagnosis, a label, anything to explain why your soul doesn't fit inside this machine. But what if you were never broken? What if your pain wasn't a malfunction but a signal? What if your nervous system isn't sick? It's awakening. Because here's the truth no one told you. We are shifting into a completely new energetic environment. The earth, the frequency, the consciousness, it's all evolving. And your body, your mind, your heart, they're all trying to catch up. This isn't dysfunction. This is recalibration. You're not meant to be fixed back into the system that made you sick in the first place. You're meant to outgrow it, to shed the survival patterns that once kept you small, to clear the noise that's no longer yours to carry. The Age of Aquarius doesn't want your obedience. It wants your integration. It wants your full, unedited, self-intuitive, emotional, connected whole. So if you're feeling sensitive right now, overwhelmed, detached from the old world, it's because your soul is responding to the new template. You're not crazy. You're not falling apart. You're upgrading. And yes, it's messy. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, you may have days where everything feels too loud, too fast, too fake. That's okay. That means the old filters are cracking. The false identities are losing grip. And the real you, the you who can feel and know and sense, is finally surfacing. This part of the journey isn't glamorous. You won't find it in polished Instagram reels or spiritual quick fixes. This is raw, intimate soul work. It's sitting in silence while your nervous system trembles. It's crying in the middle of the day and not knowing why. It's needing more rest than usual, more solitude, more truth. But that doesn't make you weak. It means you're tuning into a frequency that this world forgot how to honor. So no, you don't need to be healed before you're worthy. You don't need to be perfect before you're valuable. You don't need to be normal. You just need to be honest. Honest about what hurts, honest about what you crave, honest about what no longer feels right. Because in the Age of Aquarius, the medicine isn't in fixing yourself. It's in listening to yourself. Let your nervous system rewire. Let your emotions rise. Let your soul purge the old codes. You're not malfunctioning. You're becoming magnetic to a different kind of life. A life that was always meant for the real you. Not the conditioned version, not the compliant one, but the fully alive, divinely tuned, radiant you. You're not breaking. You're being recalibrated for truth. You may have noticed that lately it's harder to pretend, harder to tolerate shallow conversations, harder to hide how you really feel, even from yourself. That's not weakness. That's because truth is becoming louder than illusion, and not just out there in the world, but inside of you. In the Age of Aquarius, truth doesn't need to scream. It doesn't demand attention. It simply resonates, and in its presence, anything false begins to fall apart. You've probably felt this. You sit in a room and you can immediately sense the unspoken tension. You hear someone speak and something in you says, they don't believe their own words. You look at a smiling face and feel the sadness underneath. And it's not because you're imagining things. It's because your inner radar is getting stronger. Your energy is tuning itself to what's real. This is why so many people are struggling with communication right now. Not because they're confused, but because language itself is becoming too small for what they truly feel. Words stumble. They feel slow. They feel incomplete. Because we're no longer just processing information through logic. We're feeling meaning through energy. And energy doesn't lie. You may find that you're picking up more on body language tone, subtle facial expressions, even silence. You can feel when someone's energy doesn't match their words. You can sense when a room feels off, even if everyone's smiling. You can hear someone speak and immediately know whether they're in integrity or not. This is frequency awareness, and it's a defining trait of the Aquarian age. And while this level of sensitivity might feel overwhelming at first, it's actually a form of inner guidance. It helps you navigate a world where outer appearances are becoming less and less reliable. What's more powerful than speaking is transmitting. And you do that through your coherence, through your presence, through how real you allow yourself to be. In this new era, people will feel your alignment before they understand your message. They will be drawn to your calm, your truth, your clarity without you needing to explain a thing. You've probably noticed this already. The way some people open up around you even though you've barely said anything. The way strangers seem to trust you, feel safe near you, or shift their energy in your presence. That's not coincidence. That's what happens when you stop resisting your own truth. And yes, it can make things lonely at times. Because when you start living in integrity, you become incompatible with environments built on performance. You become allergic to manipulation, to fake smiles, to noise for the sake of noise. But that's not isolation, it's clarity. You're simply no longer willing to participate in what drains you. You're not running away, you're aligning upward. And the more you hold that alignment, the more you give others permission to do the same. Not by convincing them, not by preaching, but just by being the example of what it looks like to live with internal congruence. So if words are starting to feel clumsy, if the truth in your body feels louder than what's being said in the room, if you're craving authenticity over approval, know this: you're not being difficult. You're not too sensitive. You're just finally listening to the only voice that matters now, your own. There comes a point on this journey where the life you built no longer fits you. The title, the role, the routine, the image, everything you once identified with begins to feel foreign. You look around and wonder, why am I still doing this? Not out of rebellion, not out of laziness, but because something inside you is no longer willing to perform a version of yourself that isn't real. This is the moment when old roles begin to collapse. It might start with your job or your family dynamics. Maybe your social circle feels distant. Maybe the version of success you worked so hard for now feels hollow. You're not sabotaging yourself. You're not being irresponsible. You're just no longer able to tolerate what's not aligned. This happens because in the age of Aquarius, leadership is no longer based on hierarchy, control, or external power. It's based on resonance. And resonance requires you to lead from the inside out. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need a following. You don't need to be in charge of anything. You simply need to be clear. Clear in your energy. Clear in your values. Clear in how you choose to show up even when no one's watching. And the more aligned you are with your own truth, the more others begin to feel that energy. Not because you're trying to influence them, but because truth is contagious. This is the rise of inner leadership. It doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't come with applause. In fact, it often begins in silence when you quietly stop pretending. You stop performing for approval. You stop forcing what doesn't flow. You stop trying to fit in with people who require you to shrink. And at first it can feel isolating. You may lose relationships. You may outgrow roles. You may feel like you're walking away from everything you've ever known. But you're not walking away. You're walking towards something more honest, more sustainable, more you. People may not understand your choices. They'll ask why you're leaving a good job, a stable relationship, a comfortable life, and you won't always have the words to explain it. Because this kind of leadership isn't logical, it's energetic. You're not being guided by plans, you're being guided by alignment. And in this frequency, alignment is enough. You don't need to chase recognition. When you're living in truth, your presence becomes the message. You shift rooms without speaking. You hold space by simply being rooted. That's what leadership looks like in this age. Not dominance, not control, but gravity. So if you felt yourself quietly stepping back from roles that no longer feel right, trust that you're not giving up. You're growing beyond the limits that used to define you. You're not failing. You're becoming someone the old system was never designed to hold. Because this shift isn't about becoming louder, it's about becoming truer. And the more you live from that place, the more you naturally lead without effort, without titles, without needing anyone's permission. There comes a point on this path where the search ends. Not because you found all the answers, but because you realize you were never supposed to be chasing them out there. You are the frequency. You don't need to read another book to become worthy. You don't need to wait for the next alignment to feel empowered. You don't need someone else to tell you who you are. Because it's already happening. Inside you, through you, as you. The age of Aquarius isn't a future you step into. It's a state of being you embody. You've done the shedding. You've walked away from noise. You've let go of identities that once defined you. And now, without trying, without forcing, you're beginning to notice something different. People listen to your silence. They feel your presence before you speak. They lean into your stillness, not because it's loud, but because it's real. That's not charisma, that's coherence. You're no longer trying to match the world. You're tuning the space around you by being unapologetically in your own signal. And that signal doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be clear. This is where the old model ends. No more climbing ladders, no more hustling to prove, no more shrinking to belong. Because the truth is you already belong not in a system, but in this shift. You were built for this. Your emotions, your insights, your sensitivity. They're not glitches, they're tools. You're not a follower of the new paradigm. You're the one transmitting it. You're not here to explain what's coming. You're here to be it. And no, that doesn't mean life will always be easy. There will still be moments of doubt, moments of fatigue, moments where you feel like a stranger in a world that hasn't caught up. But now something is different. Because deep inside, you're anchored. You no longer need proof. You no longer need permission. You just need to keep listening. Keep honoring what's real inside you. Keep choosing alignment over performance, presence over pressure, and truth over appearance. Because the most powerful thing you can do now isn't to convince anyone. It's to stay in your frequency, steady, clear, quiet, unshakable. Let your life be the signal. Let your integrity be the teaching. Let your alignment do the leading. You are not waiting for Aquarius. You are not trying to earn it. You are not hoping to one day catch up to it. You are it. You are the field. You are the upgrade. And every time you choose to live from that space, you remind the world of what it forgot. That transformation was never meant to arrive from the outside. It was always meant to begin through us.